The rain poured relentlessly over the city of Ravenswood, casting a gloomy shadow over the cobblestone streets. Detective Eleanor Hart adjusted her trench coat and pulled her hat lower over her face as she stepped out of her car. The call had come in just an hour ago. A body had been found in the grand ballroom of the Ravenswood Manor, and the scene was unlike anything the police had ever seen. The manor, a sprawling estate owned by the wealthy and reclusive Montgomery family, was usually a place of elegance and opulence. But tonight, it was a crime scene. Eleanor pushed open the heavy oak doors and was greeted by the sight of officers bustling about, their faces pale and uneasy. In the center of the ballroom, lying on the polished marble floor, was the body of a young woman. She was dressed in a flowing white gown, her hands neatly folded over her chest. But what caught Eleanor's attention were the white gloves she wore, pristine, spotless, and eerily out of place. The woman's face was calm, almost serene, as if she were merely sleeping. But the pool of blood beneath her told a different story. "Who is she?" Eleanor asked, kneeling beside the body. "Victoria Montgomery," replied Officer Jenkins, his voice trembling. "The youngest daughter of the family. She was found like this an hour ago by the butler. No signs of forced entry, no witnesses, nothing." Eleanor frowned. The Montgomerys were one of the most powerful families in the city, and their affairs were always shrouded in secrecy. She knew this case would be anything but straightforward. As she examined the scene, Eleanor noticed something peculiar. The white gloves Victoria wore were not just any gloves. They were made of fine silk, embroidered with a small, intricate symbol on the wrist, a raven with a key in its beak. It was a symbol Eleanor had seen before, but she couldn't quite place it. "Has anyone touched the gloves?" she asked. "No, ma'am," Jenkins replied. "We thought it best to leave everything as it was." Eleanor nodded. She carefully removed one of the gloves and examined it more closely. The symbol was unmistakable now, a raven with a key. It was the emblem of the Ravenswood Society, a secretive group rumored to have ties to the city's elite. But what was Victoria doing with their symbol? The detective decided to speak with the family. The Montgomerys were gathered in the drawing room, their faces a mix of grief and unease. Eleanor introduced herself and began her questioning. Did Victoria have any enemies? Anyone who might want to harm her? She asked. The family exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, Victoria's older brother, Charles, spoke up. Victoria was different. She had a fascination with the Ravenswood Society. She believed they held the key to some great secret. But we thought it was just a phase. Eleanor's interest was piqued. Did she ever mention what she was looking for? Charles shook his head. No, but she spent a lot of time in the library, researching old books and documents. She said she was close to uncovering something important. Eleanor excused herself and made her way to the library. The room was vast, filled with towering bookshelves and ancient tomes. She began searching for anything that might shed light on Victoria's investigation. After hours of searching, she found a hidden compartment in one of the shelves. Inside was a leather-bound journal. The journal belonged to Victoria. Its pages were filled with notes and sketches, all related to the Ravenswood Society. The final entry was dated the night of her death. It read, "I've found it. The key to the Raven's secret. But I fear I'm not alone. Someone is watching me. If anything happens to me, look beneath the white gloves. The truth lies there." Eleanor's heart raced. She returned to the ballroom and examined the other glove. This time, she noticed a small, almost imperceptible seam along the edge. Using a pair of tweezers, She carefully opened the seam and found a tiny piece of parchment hidden inside. On it was a single word, crypt. The crypt. Eleanor knew exactly where to go. The Montgomery family crypt was located on the grounds of the estate, a stone's throw from the manor. She grabbed a flashlight and made her way there, her mind racing with possibilities. The crypt was cold and damp, the air thick with the scent of decay. Eleanor's flashlight beam danced across the stone walls as she searched for anything out of the ordinary. Finally, she found a hidden compartment in the wall, concealed behind a loose stone. Inside was a small box. She opened the box and found a collection of documents, all bearing the raven and key symbol. As she sifted through them, she realized the truth. The Ravenswood Society was involved in a decades-long conspiracy, one that implicated the Montgomery family in a series of crimes, including murder and embezzlement. Victoria had uncovered the truth, and it had cost her her life. Eleanor's heart sank. She knew she had to act quickly, but as she turned to leave, she heard a sound behind her. She spun around, her flashlight illuminating the figure standing in the doorway. It was Charles Montgomery, his face twisted in a sinister smile. In his hand was a gun. "You shouldn't have come here, detective," he said, his voice cold. "Some secrets are meant to stay buried." Eleanor's mind raced. She had no weapon, no way to defend herself. But she knew she couldn't let Charles get away with this. As he raised the gun, she made a split-second decision. She threw the box of documents at him, the papers scattering in the air. Charles hesitated, distracted for just a moment. It was all Eleanor needed. She lunged at him, tackling him to the ground. The gun went off, the bullet ricocheting off the stone walls. The two struggled, but Eleanor was determined. She managed to disarm Charles and pin him to the ground. As she cuffed him, she couldn't help but think of Victoria and the white gloves she had worn, a symbol of innocence, now stained with blood. Case was far from over, but Eleanor knew one thing for certain. Death may wear white gloves, but it could never hide the truth forever.